Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fumble Live. Happy Friday. We are going into the weekend, but before we do that, we have to fill you in on everything that's been going down with the NBA. There's been a lot, of course, as you all know, so make sure you subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and share it with your friends. Now here's the Fumble Squad. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward. Chris?
It's your boy Chris. Clear Chris for right now. You can follow me everywhere at CK2K.
Chris, that's not even too short, and you're clear. That's dope.
Yeah, right.
What's up, everybody? It's Jackie Ray. You can follow me everywhere at JRay the Fanatic.
Hey, y'all. It's your girl, Britt Johnson. You can follow me on all social media at I am Britt Johnson. Happy Friday, everybody.
Okay.
Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, there's been a lot that went down this week, as you all know. And then, of course, starting on Wednesday is when things really started moving, and there was a lot of news happening. And I actually want to fill you guys in on some information that came out about Wednesday and the emergency meeting that the NBA held after the Bucks decided to sit out of their game. So, as we all know, the players all met together, and according to Chris Haynes, Udonis Haslem allegedly singled out LeBron James and George Hill in their discussions and had some harsh words for both of the athletes. So he called out LeBron and put pressure on him. He was asking him what LeBron planned to do, reminding him that he's the face of the league, and what he says is kind of what's going to go, which is a sentiment that we've heard echoed by a lot of the other athletes in the league. LeBron apparently, it seems like, according to reports, he got fed up and said, quote, "We're out," and he walked out with almost all of his teammates. Dwight Howard was apparently the only Laker who remained. Then the Clippers followed their local rival shortly after the Lakers left. Udonis also put pressure on George Hill. He claimed that the veteran athlete was being irresponsible and selfish in suggesting that everyone go home because younger players haven't accumulated the wealth or developed the financial security for such a drastic action. So as we've heard, things were very tense during that meeting. There was another report that came out that said it ended ugly. Emotions were running high, as you'd expect during such a serious and pivotal conversation. But now we've actually just learned that LeBron stormed out because, and this is a quote from a tweet from Shams, he supported Bucks, supported the boycott, but there was no plan. For James, actions and outcomes mattered most. Otherwise, why do this? He became comfortable to play once the NBPA mapped out purpose and plans. So that's what Shams heard from inside the bubble. So let's talk about Udonis calling out George Hill and LeBron. Jackie, how do you feel about that? And do you think that this impacted LeBron's decision to not encourage the boycott of the season?
I don't like the calling out of LeBron at all because LeBron wasn't involved in the initial boycott. You know what I mean? I think he's right in saying that LeBron is the face of the league because, yeah, obviously. But did y'all consult LeBron before y'all walked out? I mean, you can't really come at him like that if he wasn't the one who went to Giannis and went to George Hill and said, hey, this is what I think we should do. That's not what happened. So I totally appreciate LeBron's frustration in that, yo, now y'all got me in this meeting and you're telling me, what am I going to do? And I was legit. I said what I was going to do on Twitter. I said that I was tired and we demand change right now. I didn't say anything beyond that. I'm LeBron James. I know what my words mean. If I would have wanted something beyond that, I would have said something beyond that. So now it's like a level of pressure that he didn't want. And I think when he probably got up and walked out, it was just like you said. It wasn't that, oh, okay, we out. We're not playing anymore. It's like we out of this meeting because it's not going anywhere. Y'all are talking in circles, and I ain't got time for this. I'm out. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably what happened. And then I'm sure the Clipper was like, yeah, y'all really are talking in circles. We out too. So I don't like the criticism in that. And it's just like the same thing I said yesterday. It's like, okay, you know, what's the plan? And I don't know. I would love to hear, you know, what the NFLPA came up with. I still think it's more along the lines of what I said yesterday, where it's going to be like, okay, you guys come up with the list, come back to us, and we will revisit it on this date. So, yeah, I don't know. Once I hear from LeBron directly, I can probably answer this question a little bit better because now it's like these quote unquote sources. And so until, you know, but yeah, I definitely think he probably walked out of frustration because y'all didn't ask me off top. So
we actually, in my next story, I'll tell you guys some of the agreements that the NBA and the NBPA came up with, but that'll come up next. So for now, Britt, I want to ask you, well, this is kind of piggybacking off of what you asked me yesterday about whether or not the boycott was just a potential scare tactic. So I want to ask you, how close do you think NBA players got to truly boycotting the season?
It depends on what team you're talking about. I think there were some teams that were probably more ready to do so than others. And I don't know if they were just doing it in the heat of the moment, but I would say the Bucks would probably have originally, because like, what is the point? And we'll talk more about this if you guys watch our weekend show, which airs tomorrow. We talk more about this on the Weekend Zone. So I don't want to get too in crazy depth about it, but I think it's really important, I guess, to look at like what. I'm trying to word everything correctly because I always say stuff that kind of crazy. But I think it's important to kind of look at not where the players would have been in playoff looks. I don't think that matters at all. But I think that the Bucks being in Milwaukee and that being their team and them, getting the pressure from the Raptors, when Fred Van Fleet said, oh, hey, well, if the Bucks did this, then this is something we could all follow, and this, that, and the third before the Bucks even decided to do anything. And then the Bucks were they were in the arena in the locker room getting ready to go play when they decided to not play. So I think it was just like a last minute kind of thing. But like a lot of people that I know and just from looking at comments and stuff have said like, okay, so you guys boycotted like one game. Like, what does that really do? Like obviously people got freaked out when it was like, oh, we could possibly boycott the season, but that's a different story. Boycotting one game really is just like, now you guys are just giving yourself a little break in between games because y'all are tired or something. Right. That's what it looks like. It doesn't look like you guys really are doing anything because that was just one game. And then you didn't have a plan for that one game that you boycotted. Like, yes, I know the Bucks said they were in the locker room, calling the local officials during that time or whatever, but y'all could have done that 2 days before. Like this happened on Wednesday. Y'all could have done that earlier. You could have done it yesterday on your day off. Like, there were so many different things that just didn't make sense in the situation. So I don't know who actually would have really considered it because it was just all so fast. I think everything was just done quickly. And then I know Jackie mentions it in the Weekend Zone, which we're kind of just, I guess, telling you guys now. But, there's a lot of other stuff that happens in the Weekend Zone, though, that you guys could watch. But the point of, the Bucks don't have to ask LeBron or anybody else, Like if they felt that they needed to do that in that moment, yes, that's great. But again, be a little bit more calculated, which LeBron normally is, which is why he was probably upset in the first place that, okay, we're down. If y'all want to boycott, let's do it. But like, y'all were only going to do one game, or like, what's happening here? What's the action plan? What are we doing? And if it was just a one game, it does sound silly to say we're just boycotting this one game. It doesn't make sense at all.
I'm not mad at the boycott of the one game. If you were saying, if they said that, if they said we're going to boycott this one game right now because we just be honest too. Be honest and say, hey, we are a bunch of black men playing a game. And right now, mentally, this is a strain on us, especially, again, when we're seeing that we are supposed to be on this social movement kick. And we're seeing our white counterparts all over social media and Twitter calling us clowns and saying that this guy deserved to be shot 7 times in the back. This is a lot because we understand what this means for us when we get out of the bubble. So be honest about why you're boycotting. Be honest and say we need a minute because it's mentally traumatizing for us. Don't just boycott and say, oh, now we want y'all to do something. What do you want us to do? You don't have a plan. So just be honest with what it was, and then I'm okay with the one game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a good. Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. Chris, I want to ask you: do you agree with Udonis when he said that boycotting the season would have been irresponsible and selfish, or was he being a little extreme with those remarks?
I think yes and no. I think it would have been selfish in the fact that everything we were just talking about, like, because they don't have a plan, so they would just be sitting out just to sit out, and they don't really have a plan to do anything with, and it almost would feel like, especially from the outside looking in, like Britt said, it would feel like they just taking a break just to take a break because they didn't really have. Like LeBron had said a few times, like they didn't really have a call to action as to what the next step would be if they're sitting out. So, and that's the thing too. Like I feel like, and we're gonna talk about, I think in this entire live is like it just seems like there's a lot of holes and a lot of missing parts because again we're just going off of he say she say when it comes to this whole entire thing. I'm sure a lot of this is like the gist of what happened, sure. But like I believe because UD and LeBron are homies, like they're real tight, you know. So I believe that UD talked to LeBron about his decision of wanting to sit out and, you know, saying like, all right, well, we're here now. Then I guess we send out for the season now because we can't just come back. It's going to look bad on all of us. So, of course, I'm sure UD said something to him. Maybe not to the lengths of it is here, or maybe it was. I just don't think it was. I think there's a lot of holes in a lot of this. But I understand both sides. I understand UD and why he would think it would be selfish, but I definitely am more so on LeBron's side where it's like, we're here, we made this decision, understand how this is going to look, outside looking in with us not having any kind of plan. So if we're going to do this, we got to do it the whole entire way, and we send out the entire season. So we're sending out, the Lakers are sending out, and the Clippers followed that.
I think the biggest part of that, though, that I think, because obviously there was a huge issue, we'll talk about that later and stuff with the financial aspect of it, which I thought I was kind of confused about because most of the contracts are written out with playoffs not really being part of the contract. They're not like incentive-based. So I was kind of confused on that part. And then at what point do you expect those big stars to, because they are the ones that are going to determine like, oh, we're doing this or not because they're the face of the franchises. So at what point do you expect them to then possibly help with some of those? Because my team has a lot of guys that don't make that much money because we don't have big stars on our team like that. So we have a lot of guys that actually do play, and they're not just guys that are sitting on the bench. They do play, but they don't make that much money. So like at what point do those guys, because they don't really have a big voice in the room, then get help from the other guys? Because I just look at the NFL. When the NFL lockout happens, there's always those top guys. I remember Pouncey and all those guys coming out saying, listen, guys, we need to do this lockout and we will give you money to help you guys through this time. Don't let it be a money situation while we can't get through this lockout. So I would beg to ask the same question for NBA players. Were those top guys willing to, in that moment, if they needed to, help the other guys on the team out financially? If it was, as Devin had mentioned, like a issue with like the financials, like what is our pay thing going to look like moving forward? And is this why some of the players don't want to leave and this, that, and the third?
But how much money are we talking? Because like you said, if it's not, the playoffs aren't guaranteed in your contract. So how much money are we talking?
Like it's not, I
don't know.
And I don't know the question right now because the bubble, and they just kind of worked contracts out with the bubble since the original season wasn't finished and whatever. I don't know what it is, but I know normally most players' contracts aren't incentivized by the playoffs. Like for NBA anyway. I know NFL is totally different, but NBA's not. Their contracts aren't like that. So I was confused because I know there was a whole thing with the NBPA coming in and wanting to talk to them about the financial ramifications of not playing and whatever. And I'm just like, aren't their contracts not based like that normally? So I don't know if the bubble did something totally different that we don't know about, but
we might not know. Right.
Like the financial impact would have been a big deal to some players, which I thought I was confused by.
You guys, let's move on. I have a little more information about LeBron and the requests that he was making to team owners. So yesterday we did wonder what the NBA promised its players to get them to not boycott the season. Of course, we're now getting more information about those meetings and about what the intentions truly were, but I felt like this was valuable to get into. So in the meeting yesterday, LeBron urged team owners to be more active in the fight for equality. Chris Haynes said, quote, on the call, James was stern in calling on owners to do more in aiding the Black community and to play more of a role in using their resources to combat systemic racism. He also reportedly, quote, LeBron also reportedly, quote, told players he was in, but depending on how the meeting went with owners, he would have reversed course if things went sideways. That's according to sources. And then after the meeting, LeBron felt comfortable with suiting back up again and returning to court. The owners promised that they would get to work on real action items that would benefit the Black community. And so we actually recently saw a list of some of the objectives and some of the agreements that the NBA made and some of the demands that they requested. So far, the commitment that the NBA and NBPA has made to resume the playoffs includes establishing a social justice coalition featuring reps from players, coaches, and governors, converting team arenas into voting locations for the 2020 general election, creating advertising spots in playoff games that promote civic engagement in local and national elections. I think, Jackie, I'm excited to hear from you because that reaction says everything. I do feel that the players are going to be holding the owners to these commitments that they make, and I feel like if they aren't seeing action quick enough, if they're not seeing the follow through, that we might get another threat of a boycott coming up. But okay, so Jackie, just because you had that reaction, I want to hear from you first. What's your reaction? What are your thoughts?
Confusion, mostly. Let's circle back to that commercial. Okay, so the commercial is supposed to do what now? What's the commercial? Can you read that again for me?
Promote civic engagement in local and national elections.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said. Still confused. Because here's a fun fact. Me going out to an election is not going to stop a cop from shooting me in the back. Me going out to an election, unless there's something on the ballot for that local election that is specifically addressing how police engage with me. Me going out to a local election is not going to fund community centers. It's not going to put more money into my schools unless there's something specifically on that ballot to do that. That is literally the definition of putting the cart before the horse. Those elections don't mean anything if there's nothing on that ballot that's going to directly benefit those communities. So this is backwards. This is what happens when you don't have a plan. This is when you have people just wanting to, you're saying, hey, help us. This can't be the thing. They're saying, hey, we're going to get people to vote. Vote for what? Exactly. What are we going to help put on the ballot so they can actually vote for? I don't know.
So you're saying that maybe a person such as, I don't know, like an NBA owner who has, I don't know, money, that instead of trying to put these initiatives that they should, I don't know, just, like you said, put the money straight into the communities. Maybe that would make a little bit more sense rather than, I don't know, trying to force these other things that we talked about months ago that I guess, sounding by what Devin just read, none of those were even thought about because I thought those were stuff that they were going to be doing at this point already. So, yeah, I don't know, man. If that can't, to me, be the driving force to have these players be like, you know what? Okay, you drive a hard bargain. We're back on Saturday. Thank you so much. Like, I don't know.
Britt, I want to hear from you. What do you have to say about this?
I disagree with both of you guys. I actually for the last 3 or 4 years have had to run the production of city council meetings for live television. So I'm at city council meetings every other Tuesday night. And I see what they vote on and what they have the power to do just as the city council members and as the mayor. And we all know the mayor is the one that elects or that appoints the police chief and the district attorney. So whoever you pick for mayor is then going to indirectly pick who you get as your police chief and who you get as your district attorney. And then obviously this election, yes, it's a national election and most people know that local and state elections are the ones that are most important that you need to vote for. But we also have a poor Supreme Court justice that is literally holding on by a thread right now just because she wants to make sure she stays alive long enough for there to be another president in office. So when she dies, then the president, who is now going to be the one that appoints the next Supreme Court justice, will not appoint another conservative like Donald Trump just did with 2 people. And those 2 people that they just appointed have lifetime jobs. So yes, certain things are more important. And yes, I think that what I took from the civic thing from the commercial thing Well, it's actually people in the community that come together and get signatures in order to get stuff on ballots. So if you are promoting that kind of stuff, or you're promoting being like getting people to get out there and start writing little pieces of legislation that then we can now put on a ballot and vote for, then that's great. Like, I think that those are great opportunities. And like even little stuff in LA, so many people I know in LA don't even know that LA has neighborhood councils. Each area in LA has a neighborhood council, and those are voted on positions or whatever, that like people elect those in wherever area you live in LA, and they get an allotment of money and they get to decide whatever they do with it. I checked the latest one in my area because I might consider running, but it's not up till next year. But the last election they had, only 127 people voted in the whole entire LA area of this, which has like a couple 100,000 people, and literally less than 200 people voted. And these people literally get a chunk of money from the city of LA, because LA, a lot of other places don't have this. It's the mayor and the city council, but because LA is so big, we have neighborhood councils, and the neighborhood councils get an allotment of money to decide what they do in their community. So that's going to decide if you want to do a Juneteenth celebration in the park, or if you want to use the money to go feed the homeless or make tents along an area for homeless people, or whatever you want to do. They get a chunk of money and they can determine whatever they want to do with that money. And they have council meetings every 2 weeks and nobody attends, so they don't have anybody going against what they say, and they can vote on whatever they want to. So I think that voting, people don't understand there is a lot of power in voting, and in order to get those things on the ballots, we also have to have people that are going to write them up. And I think the civic duty is, we as people can, any of us honestly can write up something, and if we get enough signatures, it will be on a ballot. So I think that's.
But are these commercials community and county specific? Because like you said, like, are the people who live, say, in the inner city of Denver, are they going to see one commercial that targets them? Because Denver's in the playoffs. So, I mean, obviously this won't happen now, but let's just say this is a playoff thing. So is Denver going to see one commercial that's specifically targeted to them? Because if you do a blanket commercial, I still got to stand by what it looks like, because now
people, they can do that. I feel like a lot of people don't even know that they can do that. Maybe it's a commercial that's telling us, hey, guess what? In your communities, you have this. Even stuff, so many people I know haven't even done their 2020 census yet. That is how money is allotted in your community is based off the 2020 census. And so many people don't do it. It takes 3 minutes to do it. And it literally is anonymous. You don't even have to put your name on it. You just have to fill it out so they know where to put the
until
money.
They come knocking on your door. They
Huh?
came and knocked on my door. I was like, "Why are you at my door, census man? I've already filled this out."
Yep, that happened to me too. The census lady came to my door.
So we clearly have different opinions on the panel here about what the NBA and NBPA has decided to do moving forward. Hopefully this is not an exhaustive list. Hopefully they do plan on putting money back into the communities that need it most. But Britt, I think you bring up some really, really great points. I think this is a good jumping off point, but I would love to see more. So we'll see what happens. I feel optimistic that athletes are going to be holding the owners up to these commitments. They're not going to let anything slide, which is important. This is valuable right now. But on that note, you guys, that wraps up Need to Know News. So Chris, will you take us into the post up?
Yes, it's time for post up with your boy Chris, quarantine edition. And to piggyback off of what you said, Bray, if that is the case, okay, I'm with it. I just hope that it's all the teams, not just these playoff teams, because there are more teams in the NBA, and there's going to be a lot of communities that are going to be missed out. So if that's the case, Nick should be speaking to New York and vice versa, and so on and so on. So
Knicks up in here. You always got to include the Knicks.
I just used them because I went to the one team that I knew was not in the playoffs, so I went to my Knicks. Okay, that's the reason why I brought them up. But yeah, so I just wanted to piggyback with that. But yeah, jumping into post up, we are starting off with LeBron James. And yesterday, I guess he got caught. But to me, I don't see the big deal in this. But we'll see what you guys have to say. But LeBron James, we were talking about how while the impromptu meeting happened, after the Bucks decided to boycott their game, and then of course the teams following that did the same thing. We talked about the Lakers and the Clippers walking out, and walking out of the meeting while the meeting was still going on. So allegedly, LeBron, after LeBron James and the Lakers walked out of the meeting, my man went right to his room, jumped on his PlayStation or Xbox, I don't know what system he got, and went right on to the brand new Madden 21. To me, I don't have a problem with this. Like, what's LeBron gonna go and do? Like, he's in a bubble. Like, where you expect him to go? I don't know. But LeBron went right into his room, and people who are following him, following his gamer tag, they all saw that he was logged in playing Madden NFL 21. It's the same gamer tag that he was using for when he was on 2K, when we talked about that a few weeks ago, excuse me. So people were just joking about that, like LeBron was really done with the situation. There's a bunch of replies. People were like, man, LeBron was so done that he didn't even play his own damn sports video game. He went to Madden. So I was like, yeah, I think that's pretty funny. But yeah, LeBron James, like, should we have a problem? Are we supposed to have a problem with this? Because I don't have a problem with it. I mean, LeBron said what he had to say. He bounced. But let me bring this over to you, Jackie Ray. Is there a problem with LeBron James going off of that meeting and playing Madden, or we should be upset with LeBron?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I mean, he said what he said. Now it's time to play a game. What? I don't know what's happening. Why are we mad?
That's what I'm saying. We need to call Kawhi out because he probably went to his room. He's probably recharging his battery. He's not supposed to recharge his battery. What do you expect him to do? He's in the bubble, so like let him live. No, I'm messing. But anyways, from there I want to move on to the NFL. It's crazy because yesterday Britt was asking the question about, because we talked about or she talked about, NFL and, their changes. And we heard what Eric Reed had to say. And we talked about the Lions deciding to boycott their practice. And she had asked me, what other teams would I see, making a stand or boycotting or making statements or speaking out? And I had to answer, I don't know. But one of the last teams that we had all come together and said, well, maybe this team was the Ravens. And Ravens said, hold my beer. Because they released a statement yesterday, and it was in my opinion, it was a well put together statement. It wasn't just a simple statement of them addressing what had happened, which obviously they should, because that's the reason why this statement came out. But they also came in with ways or actions that should be taking place after the decision that they made. They're saying that they're standing with the community, standing with the NBA, standing with all that stuff. And here are some, it's not everything, it's not the complete answer, but here are some of the things that we should be doing from here on out. And then they dropped on a full list, and I want to read a few of those things that they had put down on their list. Starting off with arrest and charge the police officers responsible for Breonna Taylor's killing and the shooting of Jacob Blake. Obviously, it's crazy that they even had to write that down, but obviously. Moving on, they also said demand that Senator Mitch McConnell bring the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act of 2020 to the Senate floor for vote. Now, for those who do not know what that entails, the end qualified immunity, require body cameras, ban chokeholds, and no knock warrants, hold police accountable in court, establish a framework to prohibit racial profiling at federal, state, and local levels. They also added on the third page, I don't know what page we're on right now, but they also added encourage everyone to engage in political process by registering to vote on both the local and national level. So a lot of stuff that is pretty obvious, but in the same sense, they're taking that next step, because like we said, like, it's one thing to speak and say what you have to say, see these statements. Like a lot of NBA teams that are not in the bubble, like I mentioned earlier, they had statements. We saw the Kings say stuff. Again, my Knicks said stuff. We saw all the other teams saying stuff, but the amount added to the statement by the Baltimore Ravens, I'm going to give them a little bit of applause, give them a little bit of an applause. But Brett, I want to bring the question back to you, because we were talking about this. What team would we see coming out and saying something or doing something? And now the Ravens, who we had said at the very end before we moved on, the Ravens was one of the teams that you had said that you would see coming out. Are you cool with the statement that the Ravens said? How do you feel about this statement that was put out by the Ravens?
I think it's great. And to your point of saying, oh, it's obvious, what they put on there.
It's crazy.
Well, it's definitely not obvious because it hasn't been done yet, so it's almost like we have to go back to the basics, because some people missed kindergarten, they don't understand the simple things of sharing is caring and all this kind of stuff, and clean up, everybody do your share. Some people miss that. So sometimes we got to go all the way back, even though we've had so many things that have come that should make this common sense. It's not common sense, because literally, what day are we in now since Breonna Taylor's murder? She was murdered in March. Like, come on now. It's so many things that have happened even since then. and we continue the same thing. So it's like it's I think it was like almost like not even petty of them to do it. It was just great that they're like, okay, since you guys don't get it, let's break down the basics. This is what we want. And they just have to write a list. It's literally like a girlfriend telling her boyfriend, like, number one thing I don't want, don't cheat on me.
They don't need to be said, but it needs to be said. Right.
And this is what it was here. And I loved it. I thought it was great. And I'm not surprised. Like I said yesterday, I'm like, I could see the Ravens doing something like that. I think Coach Harbaugh has always kind of like led the punches, and he's stuck by his team. Whatever his players want to do, that's what he's going to do. And I think it goes for him just not being like super old, like maybe some of the other coaches. But even to say, I mean, Pete Carroll's the oldest coach in the league, and he's more liberal than most guys too. So some people are just raised right, and some people aren't. And I think both of the brothers were raised right. And even though one of them is at Michigan and I'm an Ohio State fan, but no, I thought this was great. I loved it.
Yeah, no,
I
100%.
Somewhere.
No, I get it. You do what you gotta do. I ain't mad at it, but no, 100%. And that's the thing too. They were getting some kind of pushback. I mean, obviously, anything that is for what is right is going to get pushback. But the pushback that they were getting that was more unique because they are in Baltimore, and we know the history of Baltimore and what has been going on in Baltimore. Yeah. But that being said, I feel like
they should do that.
Exactly. That is what I was just that even more of a reason why the Ravens are. I applaud this even more for them to be the one to be speaking out, saying this, to like hold your own city accountable. On top of that, So yeah, I agree with you on what you said there. So moving from there, we got a fun little picture from Goran Dragic and the Balkans boys. I call this the all Balkans team photo, but we got all these boys that are in different places that are within the Balkans. We have, we got Goran Dragic, we got Nikola Vucevic, we got Big Boban, we got Luka right there. We see Nikola Jokic. Now, here's my thing. I'm going to pay... who am I going to test? Keep the picture up, but I just want to hear your voice. All right, I'm going to test. We're going to go Jackie Ray. Jackie Ray, I'm going to test you. Who the hell is my man in the back right?
I knew you were going to ask that. Let me say right now.
Britt Johnson.
I don't know.
Britt Johnson. Who's that in the back wearing the AC Milan jersey? Her silence speaks volumes. But the reason why I brought it to you first, Britt, come on. Smart answer, Britt. My girl Britt said, "Oh no, I know."
Don't pick me. No. I was like, please pick somebody that I know. No. And then I was like, as soon as you said it, I was like, no.
No, the reason why I threw it to you, I'm gonna give my girl Devin the pass because we killed Wednesday, so I'm not gonna let you on my side today, so I ain't gonna throw it at you, Devin. But the reason why I threw it at you, Jackie Ray, is because he plays for I know it's not your Nuggets, but he plays for the Denver Nuggets as Victor. I cannot say his last name, Kankar. I had no idea who it was beforehand, so I only know this because I had looked.
You
it
want
up.
me to know him because he plays for Denver? This is your. Yeah. Is LeBron on the Denver squad? Why would I know this?
I don't look. I hate the Nets, but I know everybody on their damn team because I still, I'm still I'm a New York boy, so I need to know who's on the team. I hate them.
Houston. I'm like that about Houston and maybe the Warriors.
You hate them.
But
anyway,
he looked like a guy that lived 2 doors down from me when I was growing up. So I was like, I don't know if I should throw that name out there or.
Is that a little Timmy?
Yeah, little Timmy. How you getting there? How you getting that picture? But no, real talk. That's what I thought. I thought that all these. He's like a super fan that was just in the bubble, like a training staff. Somebody that was a huge fan of these guys that just got in the picture. I'm like, nope, this dude is in the pros too. He actually plays for Slovenia. He plays with Goran Dragic. So I was like, oops, my bad, dog. But yeah, so it was a cool little moment. The whole Balkan squad got together and drank some beers and hung out and talked. Who knows what they were talking about? But my man Nikola Vucevic the only one eating. Why no one else eating? Like, what the heck? All right, anyways.
They're on a diet.
I hate being that guy. Probably. I hate being that guy where I'm the only one eating in the group. It's like, yo, like, because everyone watching. And then they all got comments like, oh, man, that burger looked pretty good. Yeah, is it good? And I'm like, I have to talk about leave me alone. You should have got food, too. Anyway, sorry. I digress. Right, no, and you're right, exactly. And no, you cannot have a damn piece. Yeah, no. Anyways, I digress. Moving on to LeBron James wishing his lovely wife a happy birthday. Yes, we know he's in the bubble, so he's not able to celebrate with Miss Savannah James or Mrs. Excuse me, Savannah James. And LeBron went in all caps mode. He went full, posted a slideshow photos of his lovely wife, and he went in with the caption saying, "My beautiful, strong, ambitious, driven, committed, loving, amazing woman I call my queen, my best friend, my love, my wife. I scream from the damn bubble, happy birthday. Please enjoy your day, your weekend, your moment in time. I love you." I loved all the commas that you put in this one. You couldn't just use one word. You had to keep it going, and that's real love. So shout out to LeBron James and Savannah James. Happy birthday, Miss Savannah James. Hope you are having a good time with it. She probably just living it up. She's like, "Yeah, I miss you too, LeBron." What we doing tonight, y'all? Like, she probably living it up. So do your thing. Happy birthday. So now let's get back into this meeting conversation because we talked about it earlier. And as I said, I feel like there's a lot of holes in what these sources have to say happened within the meeting. And I feel like there's a huge hole in this conversation we're going to talk about. Now, we mentioned back and forth between LeBron James and Udonis Haslem and George Hill. Well, after we talked about how only Dwight Howard's one of the only Lakers to stay back and the whole Clippers team. Well, there was another Clippers player that decided to stay, or not another, but a Clippers player as well decided to stay back, and that was Patrick Beverley. And there was a back and forth between Patrick Beverley and Michelle Roberts of the NBPA. Yeah. And there was a little bit of a back and forth, but the thing is, we don't know really how the back and forth went. But according to Chris Haynes' article on Yahoo Sports, basically when Michelle Roberts was going up to talk about the financial toll and, what canceling the playoffs could do financially for the league and for the players and whatnot, Patrick Beverley was not letting her get her point across, and he interjected a few times, saying a few things to the point where Michelle Roberts had finally asked him, "Can I please finish?" And Patrick Beverley responded with, "No, I pay your salary." So here's my thing. I know everybody's going to say, "But that's Patrick Beverley. He's very loudmouth. He's that." But cool. We talk about all the time. There's a difference between a player on the court and the person off the court. You think Montrezl Harrell just be walking around just, ready to smack somebody and yell at somebody when he's not on a basketball court? He might be loud. Maybe he might not be loud. This goes with the Morris twins. Like, we hear the Morris twins are very introverted, but when they're on the court, they ready to, step on your ankle, or they ready to throw a ball on your face. Marcus Morris.
He said what he said. He said what he said.
So the point I'm making is I'm not going to judge a person on the court for who they are off the court. So I just don't feel like Patrick Beverley is going to go out of his way to be that disrespectful to Miss Michelle Roberts of the NBPA and say something like that. And I'm not alone in that sentiment, because Taylor Rooks, who had spoke to some other people, well, again, I'm going to say allegedly. She could say she did. I don't know what to believe anymore. She allegedly spoke to players that were within the meeting, and she put out this tweet saying, spoke to some players who say that Pat Bev and Michelle Roberts did have a moment, but they spoke to each other yesterday morning, and it has been completely resolved. Now, I can believe that. Again, still not sure who you talked to. I'm going to let you have that, but I don't know who's talking to who. But we did have somebody who was actually on the inside respond to these reports from that article. Vic Law, who is a forward, or gosh, I didn't even know you got picked up by. I know you are Vic, but I didn't know you got picked up by the Bucks. But he's on the Bucks, on the Milwaukee Bucks. He was in the meeting, and he responded to this article about Patrick Beverley and what he said to Miss Michelle Roberts. And he said, quite frankly, I don't know what reporter was in the room, but I can definitely say that is not what he had said, which is what I expect. I don't like that. The amount of disrespect. Like, I know Mama Beverly is not going to be okay hearing that that's what her son had said. I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's the case. So on that note, I do want to defer to you, Miss Devin, because we were talking about the statement, or not statement, the article and what happened in the meeting. Are you with me? Do you believe that there are some holes to what actually happened in the meeting, including this back and forth with Patrick Beverley, or do you think that's what Patrick Beverley actually had said?
I mean, I feel like what we're learning about those meetings is that there's a lot of stuff that was misinterpreted and misunderstood by people,
right.
And so it's hard to really know what was going on. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think I am with you.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, but and then, I have to come to you, Britt Johnson. Patrick Beverley is one of your many point guards on your team, and like I said, you can say what you want to say about the person on the court. That's who they are on the court. That's who they are. But off the court, I personally, maybe I'm not even wrong, but I don't believe that he is going to be that kind of disrespectful off the court. I don't think he's that kind of guy. Do you agree that there are probably, because we're here quoting sources, do you believe that this is what was actually said, or do you think that there's just a lot of holes in what we are learning about this meeting?
No, I'm with you, and you literally took the words right out of my mouth. I was like, everybody knows Pat Bev's mom. Number one, because she's fine, and two, because she don't play, And like, I just know he would not talk to, especially a black female like that. He just wouldn't do it. I don't see that happening. Somebody that's older than him too, like that. That's on like.
Yep.
I just don't see it, because I just feel like he would have like known his mama would have been right behind him, ready to smack the back of his head. And like, that's how that you just see that in the relationship all the time, like, so with Pat Bev's mom, I just don't see that being something that was said. And I don't think Patrick Beverley was that heated in that situation anyway, because he doesn't really have like any super like crazy dog in the race. Like, he does make money. He doesn't, and she was there to talk about the money aspect of it. So I don't really understand why he would in that moment would be so heated. And like I said yesterday, a lot of these, because really I could say something right now. I mean, granted, I'm not on ESPN or Fox, but I could be like, well, sources told me this, that, and the third. And guess what? Nobody's going to fact check whatever my source was, because
that's right.
These are supposed to be anonymous sources. So I'm just supposed to be getting information. And just like who everybody believes in all the time, Ian Rappaport had said something the other day about the Cowboys not being interested in Earl Thomas. I posted it, and the Cowboys director of talent guy messaged me back, and he said that is not factual information. Like, Ian, nobody told him that. Nobody told him that up there, because he's the head of all the stuff that goes in and out with the Cowboys. And he was like, nobody said that. Jerry Jones did not say that. And Ian can just say that, though. It's just like, sources told me.
He can say it and people will believe it.
Who said that?
Right.
And you never have to answer who said that. So you could just really make up whatever you want. So whatever headline sells, that's what they're going to go with. That headline sold. And he probably said something, obviously, but the way, like, verbatim, those words were not said.
Yep, I completely agree. I think that I believe that he probably did interject and say something, but I don't think it was to the level of disrespect.
To do what we want you to do, like something like that is what I feel like was said, because she probably was trying to do more the NBA side, and she's probably like, hey, hello, you're the NBPA president. You're supposed to do what we want. You're supposed to be our voice. Like, I think it was probably something like that, honestly.
Yep. I don't know. Just a lot of holes in this whole entire thing, from LeBron James and what was said back and forth between that, and then to the Patrick Beverley thing, and there was other things. I don't know. But yeah, this one. Sorry, I'm with you on this one, Pat. I don't think that is what you said, and I hope that I'm right on this one. Anyways, you guys saw the thumbnail. We found James Harden, and he ain't in the bubble, guys. I know what's going on, because when I saw this video, I was 100% convinced that who is this guy that we're watching in the bubble right now? Because I'm looking at James Harden working in a Walmart right now. Check out this video.
He's trying to tell my dogs, man. I work with James Harden at Walmart, bro. This is side gear, you feel me? You gotta do the two-step back one time. You know what I'm saying?
The reaction got me every good time. Look.
20 years.
Yo.
Yeah, that's retirement Harden. Y'all see that belly? That's not current Harden. That's retirement Harden.
No, that's 20-year Harden. That's how we all see Shaq and Charles Barkley now. They're all big now. That's Harden.
Hopefully he don't get that big. That's too big, but We'll
see. I don't know.
Man, we're all making fun of him.
I know this is a whole dude that y'all here clouding on.
No. You look great.
You look like you're working out. Look at those triceps back there. Okay.
Look, man, me and my homies, we always call, like, when a player plays really well, they remind you of another player. We'll call him like Dollar Tree, fill in the blank, or bootleg, fill in the blank. I've never heard of a Walmart somebody, but we found Walmart James Harden. I need to see his jump shot. Yeah, I need to see if he got a jump shot. I need to see if he's lefty. I don't know. We got to see. But last but not least, I got a badass for you guys here. Now, hold your breath because it is kind of hard to watch. Nothing bad happens, but it's kind of hard to watch because you're just like, oh my god, this little girl about to do that. But we have Lil Sky Brown, who is 12 years old, and like I said, she is a complete badass, and she is probably one of the best skaters in the world. And like I said, she's only 12 years old. She's from Japan, and she hit up none other than the GOAT of skateboarding himself, Tony Hawk, to go and accompany her in what they are calling the mega ramp. And when you see this thing, you'll be like, oh yeah, that is too damn big. But watch Lil Sky take on this thing, man. It's pretty crazy.
Get it.
You can feel the anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy. But watch it. Second run. Watch the second run. Confident. Let's get it.
Nailed it.
Get it, girl.
And she falls like a pro too. Like that's I got so much because that's the thing. Falling is a talent, man. I'm telling you, especially in sports like this. Like you can see how you go free fall and then you fall and you bust your head. But nah, she fell. Knees first. That's what, you know. Go ahead. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Big all your bones and you right. So yeah, shout out to Sky, and that's the thing. That part of the video was like a minute and 20 seconds in. It is a solid minute and 20 seconds of her just like breathing, and because it's a big drop. And that was the first time she was ever doing it. And again, she's only 12, so shout out for her. She had the confidence. Yeah. She did it, and then she went right back at it and did it again, and she hit that. Oh god, I don't know. I used to play Tony Hawk, but I don't remember none of the moves, nothing like that. Anyways, that's it for me here on the post up.
Yeah, that's what I was talking video this morning. With her standing there, just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. It's like, whew, I was feeling the stress in that moment, but she killed it. Yes. Very, very well.
Yes.
Jackie, all right. On that note, can you tell us the singing is coming back now?
I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm trying to do the TikTok thing where I lip sync with you. Totally didn't get it that time, but that's all right. All right, guys, welcome to What We Not Gonna Do. So what I'm not gonna do is lie and say that I watch hockey. I don't watch hockey because I feel like it's a kind of a racist sport. There's not enough people who look like me in it, so it's not a thing to me. I do sometimes feel bad about that though, because I feel like I should support the black players that are in it. And people tell me I would love it if I saw it in person. I just don't know if I would feel safe enough and at ease enough to watch it in person, but that's a whole nother story. But I've said before, and I'll say it again, that I don't believe that the protests are changing the minds of anyone. Britt said the same thing. I don't think it's changing anyone's minds. I think actually seeing black men stand up and assert themselves and put themselves in positions to actually affect change is probably making people double down on their racism. So personally, with my views of the NHL, I'm not surprised that they haven't really done much in the way of supporting this movement. Evander Kane, though, who is an NHL player and he heads up the Diversity Alliance, or Greg Molden or Robbie Earl, none of the black men in there are really being supported as far as this movement goes. But it's crazy to me to kind of see that because there's only 43 black players in the NHL. So you would think that the NHL would want to do something because we know that the NHL has a history of people throwing bananas at players and things of that nature. They have a really bad history as far as racism. But Evander Kane says they're not doing much, and he had this to say. So he said it's incredibly insulting as a black man in hockey, the lack of action and acknowledgement from the NHL. I'm really glad he said insulting because if he had said surprising, then I would be confused because it can't possibly be surprising. Like I said, this is a long time coming with the amount of racism that they have. I think it was just a few months ago we talked about the 20-year-old New York Ranger that Keandre Miller that was on a Zoom call being introduced to fans like, hey, this is your new rookie, and all the racism and the racist slurs that were thrown at him. And that wasn't surprising, and that they kind of glossed over that. It wasn't a huge deal about that. So unless something dramatically changes, I just can't see, number one, the number of black players going up in the NHL, because I don't know how you would get young people to say, hey, I want to play a sport where I know I'm going to be racially berated like this. I don't know how you would make them feel safe and included. And then, Evander kind of said the same thing in an interview with Sportsnet. He said it shouldn't be just his responsibility or any other black player in the league to raise awareness and try to make the league more inclusive. It should be everyone's. I totally agree with that. But like I said, this is 157 years in the making. So I've never really been pro, like I hear people all the time say, oh, you know, black, especially when it comes to the NFL because of how slow they are to move on things. People say, oh, the people in the NFL should just make their own league. I've never really co-signed on that because that doesn't make sense to me when, you know, 70% of the league is black. Like, no, we should fix where we are because we already dominate this league. So, but if there's only 43 y'all, and a lot of people, I read an article about 3 months ago that said a lot of young kids don't even consider playing it because they don't feel like they're welcome in it. So if that's the mindset of kids, obviously you need to start young, then maybe this is the time to do it. I don't know, but he did have a interview with Sportsnet. Leo, do you have that clip? I'd like to kind of show you what he said regarding
until everybody decides to take it upon themselves and maybe step away from some of their privileges to educate themselves and really fight with us. You know, we're going to be in the same situation we are today. You know, it's great to write statements. It's great to send tweets. It's great to post stories and pictures on Instagram. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about real action and meaningful change. And unfortunately, that still isn't occurring, and you know, we need to be better.
So I think it's going to be hard to actually see that happen in the NHL. So Chris, I'm going to go to you. Given what we know of the NHL and how high those racist walls go, do we willingly dive into what probably will be another 100-year battle to kind of change the perception not only of the owners and the players but also the fan base, or do we kind of say, hey, this is just what it is? Maybe let's think about starting our own league, or maybe let's just suck it up and just kind of keep pushing, and hopefully one day it changes.
Man, that is such a loaded question. I want to take pieces from all of them, but I feel like the majority. Damn, that's such a good question because my brain is like, well, hopefully keep pushing, hoping so that something changes. But again, you know, if we're come this far, we're at a point where we are right now, and even we're seeing NASCAR had made some sort of changes, and NHL is still falling so far behind. Who knows if there will ever be a time where there'll be any kind of changes? Maybe it takes more, you know, actions or more players that are in the NHL to speak out. Who knows? Maybe this is a time where it might be closer, but I don't know about making a whole new league. I don't know what that does. I'm not, like you said, I've never been a crazy fan of that either. I don't know how far that's going to go. I don't know how that would work out either. So I hate the answer, but it's almost one of those things where you just got to keep trying to push and hopefully you get more voices that can help make some sort of change, but it's just not going to look good for it. I'm not going to be very optimistic when it comes to the NHL. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do to make the younger people feel welcomed in that league, and that's always going to be my main concern. But yeah, good luck, I guess. I don't know what else to say right now. So I don't know what else to say. All right, so let's move on. Things you never want to do in life is to be compared to Donald Sterling. Britt will tell you that that's the worst person you can be compared to, but that is who Deloy Hansen has been compared to. He owns Real Salt Lake, which is based in Utah, which probably is where I could end this story. That should probably tell you everything you need to know about what's about to come next. But anyway, he's under investigation for being very Donald Sterling-esque. I guess reports surfaced that in 2014, there was an incident where he used the N-word when speaking to a team equipment manager. And then 2 years later, in 2016, The Athletic reports that he made racially charged comments to a Dallas player, Kellen Acosta, who scored the winning goal. And after the game, he stood right in front of him and he was talking to his general manager and he said, when are we going to lynch this man? So, yeah. And then several people have come out and said that he's just completely racist. A former RSL defender, Aaron Maud, said that he was on an elevator. Hansen walked in and told him, oh my God, I thought you were a thug. So he's being attacked by now because he also had something to say about the protests regarding the Jacob Blake situation. He told KXRK he felt as if he had been impaled by a blade and was trying to figure out a way to pull the knife out and move forward. He threatened to reduce his investment in the club and said he would start cutting 40 to 50 jobs because of their protests. He said, quote, the disrespect is profound to me. Obviously, the importance of bringing the community together during COVID was not respected. We all know that Donovan Mitchell has been very vocal about, he said he didn't want to play when he got emotional about the Jacob Blake situation, and he has called for Hampton to sell the team. And another star, MLS star, Josie Altidore, seems to feel the same way. He posted this tweet where he says that he is ready to sell the team. He thinks that he should sell the team, and that he has buyers already. I don't know if we have the tweet, but he already has buyers for that. But I'm not mad at Hampton's wife defending him. I don't know if we have her tweets, Leo, if you can put up her tweets. It's a long, convoluted text message that she sent to The Athletic. If we don't have it, that's fine. She's basically saying that there's not a racist bone in his body. The man that said a black man should be lynched, and the man that called a black man the N-word, doesn't have a racist bone in his body. And he's read the new Jim Crow law and handed it out to people in support of Black Lives Matter. And he built a gym for a couple of women. So we should overlook the N-word and all that and judge him by his actions. I thought that was the most willfully ignorant post. I get defending your husband, but you can't say that a man who uses the N-word and says a black man should be lynched doesn't have a racist bone in his body. So I don't really have any questions on this one because of the sake of time, but I'm just thinking that maybe you just have to own up to it. Maybe you're not fit to own a team if you have this racist mindset. So I'm just hoping that the MLS will push to have him sell the team. And since he's behaving like Donald Sterling, they treat him like Donald Sterling and move on. So that's all I have for what we're not going to do. Chris, are you ready?
Yes.
Because it is time for Brit's Takes.
Brit's Takes.
All right, guys, it is time for Brit's Take, and today is a very sad day for me. I am going to have to negatively talk about one of my favorite players of all time because this guy actually acted the right way his whole entire life, and he always said the right thing until now. So he's kind of maybe the opposite of the other guy because he's always said the right thing, but apparently that's not what he really believed in. So Brian Urlacher, if you guys don't know who Brian Urlacher is, he is an 8-time Pro Bowler. He was an NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He played his entire 13 seasons in the league with the Chicago Bears. And obviously he also was a first ballot, first eligibility selected into the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2018. I loved Brian Urlacher. He also played in my favorite and I think the most historical Super Bowl game ever, which was the Bears versus the Colts, Tony Dungy versus Lovie Smith, the first time in NFL history 2 black head coaches played against each other in a Super Bowl, and frankly, still the only time that has happened. But yes, it was that's one of my favorite Super Bowls ever. Obviously, the Colts ended up going on to win that. So no, Brian Urlacher does not have a Super Bowl under his belt. But even still, he is one of the most famous Chicago Bears players of all time, not just offensively, but defensively. And I say that because usually it's the quarterback that's the most famous person on that team. Rex Grossman was the quarterback. So, yeah, Brian Urlacher was the most famous. Mm-hmm. Actually, during the peak of his career, he was third in most total jerseys sold in the NFL. Number 1 was Brett Favre. Number 2 was Michael Vick. And number 3 was Brian Urlacher. Brian Urlacher being one of the only defensive players in the top 10 of jersey sales to be sold as the most jersey sales sold. So he was that guy, because usually people want to get a receiver jersey or a quarterback jersey or something like that. No, this guy was a defensive big man, and he literally was everybody's favorite guy. His teammates all said the same thing. I actually spoke with several of them this morning because I was so confused about this, and I felt like, did I miss something? Whereas there's something that happened in Brian Urlacher's history that I totally missed, which made me still like him when I shouldn't have liked him. So if you guys wonder why I'm saying all this and why I'm bringing this up, is because he actually posted something on his social media yesterday. He left it up for a little over 10 hours. It is now deleted, but he left it over for a good chunk of time. When I first saw it, I thought he was hacked. Leo, if you want to throw up that first message, he said, Brett Favre played the Monday Night Football game the day his dad died, threw 4 touchdowns in the first half, and was a legend for playing in the face of adversity. NBA players boycott the playoffs because a dude reaching for a knife wanted on a felony sexual assault warrant was shot by police. Yes, Brian Urlacher, you guys, said that. Brian Urlacher, the same Brian Urlacher that, yes, you guys, has a black son, a biologically black son, because he decided to have sexual intercourse with a black woman and then had a black son. That does not make you not racist, because we know in slavery they did that all the time. But he also has a gay daughter who now I'm confused why he's such a huge Trump supporter. So yes, he has like probably the most liberal of whatever a family could be around him. He has a minority son and he has a lesbian daughter, but no, he is apparently the most conservative guy in the world. I looked at his social media page or his Instagram page, literally follows not just Trump, not just Team Trump pages, the whole entire family down to the sisters and cousins. And literally it was a bunch of Trump people. And then it was Tommy Lauren. And then oddly enough, after that, it was all his black football teammates he ever played with. So I'm so confused because this is Brian Urlacher. And Brian Urlacher, I was a huge fan of. A lot of people were going back to the what I said, speaking with several of his former teammates earlier today. They all said they absolutely were floored that he said this. They never expected anything like that to come out of his mouth because he was not only an amazing teammate, he was known across the league for his character and just like what a quality stand-up guy he was. I didn't even know this, but my one of his former teammates told me that when Tank Johnson was in court and he had to have somebody speak to his character, he called Brian Urlacher to do so. Tank Johnson obviously was a former big man on the defensive team for the Bears, and they played together, and he is black. So, yeah, I was, they were buddy enough for him to call on him and be like, hey, can you speak to my character or whatever? And I asked everybody I could think of. I did a tweet about it like, hey, you guys, like, is there something we missed about Brian Urlacher? Because he didn't just play a little bit in the league. He wasn't just some player that went under the rug. He was a star top player, and he played 13 seasons in the National Football League. And we never had any indication that he was racist and whatever. So much so, his former teammate, Matt Forte, actually was floored again, like the people I had spoken with. And so he said in several tweets, the comment Brian Urlacher posted is void of empathy, compassion, wisdom, and coherence, but full of pride and ignorance. I pray for those who have been blinded by their wealth, privilege, and earthly fame that breeds arrogance in their hearts, and those who refuse to acknowledge racism and injustice, but instead choose to place their energy into, you can go on to the next tweet, Leo, into justifying it by quickly judging the victim's life as if they themselves are more valuable because their sins are different or weren't caught by man. But God sees all. Now, Matt Forte, I think, indirectly said in this thing that ain't the Brian Urlacher I knew, but somewhere, somehow, his fame and his wealth and his privilege got the best of him, and that is not the same guy that I grew up playing with and I played with and, fought on the battlefield with during my football career. And everybody I spoke with said the same thing. That is not Brian Urlacher. I saw several football players post about Brian Urlacher may need to donate his brain to science because he must have CTE. There must be something wrong. People thought his account was hacked, all of this kind of stuff. I don't even know what my take could be on this other than the fact that I think in this country, and I've said this before plenty of times, I don't think this country is any more racist now than it was 10 or 15 years ago. I think we've been racist this whole entire time, but I think that people used to mask their racism and they were quiet about it because it was not cool or not a good idea to be racist. Well, Donald Trump came and changed that. He made it okay for people to be openly racist and whatever the case is. And honestly, thank you. Thank you for doing that because I would much rather know who my enemies are. all the people that I spoke with about this Brian Urlacher situation are honestly devastated. One of them said, like, I want to text him and have a conversation with him, but right now I'm like, I don't even know what to say because this isn't the same person that I knew. And a lot of times we get, people have just skated by and they've been racist this whole time. Racism just didn't come back now after the 1960s and just revamp itself up. No, it's always been here. These people have always been racist. It wasn't okay for them to say something. Now it's okay for them to say something. And now we're in a place where we can see what the actual problem is instead of like hiding the problem and the problem not existing because we don't like talk about it. We can see the problem, and then obviously now we can adjust ourselves how we need to adjust. And I would much rather know in a war how many people I'm up against than not. And yes, I said war. This is a war on race right now, and it's not a war against black and white people. It's a war against racism and everybody else. And I think to know who is racist is going to be the best thing that we can do moving forward, because we are going to know how we need to come to this battle and how to fight in this situation. And it's unfortunate to find out that Brian Urlacher, one of the best tackles in the game, is not on our team. Like he, he wasn't a tackle, but like a linebacker, but he tackled. But to know that a guy that got so much praise from everybody, not just his white teammates, his black teammates, his coaches, people he went up against, everybody always had good things to say about him. And it's really sad to see that this is how he feels. And this is even worse, I would say, than the Drew Brees situation, because Drew Brees said that in an interview on like TV where it's live. And sometimes when stuff is live, you don't have time to really think about what you're saying. Not saying that what he said is right, because obviously my stance on how I felt about what Drew Brees said. But he wrote this out on his social media. So he had every moment to sit and calculate and figure out exactly what he was going to write. Go back and remember the Brett Favre Monday Night Football game where he scored 4 touchdowns in the first half. Like, go back and remember details of stuff and write it down, and then leave it on his page for 10 to 12 hours where people were seeing it. So he knew what he was writing. He hasn't, I don't know if there's going to be any kind of thing he says after. He hasn't said anything about it. He deleted it off his Instagram. The Bears, who literally, that is one of the most famous Bear players ever. The Bears have put out statements saying that actually that is not what we believe. We think that this was a wrong situation. This is what we're going to do. I know Chris mentioned the Ravens statement. The Bears released a similar statement. They didn't have exact details of how they were going to do stuff, but they were talking about doing stuff in the community and this, that, and the third. And they were against what Brian Urlacher had said. Chris, my question's going to be to you. Were you surprised about Brian Urlacher's post? And do you know about this? I mean, I don't followed. I'm sure you did follow football at that time, but
No, I did definitely. But no, and everything you mentioned about his kids, like that was big news. Like people when it all had come out, and he was not even like hiding them or anything. It was news. Like we knew about it. So because of that, and not saying that it should be something to automatically check someone off and say, oh, black kid and a gay daughter, yeah, he's fine, he's not racist, yeah. And unfortunately, I guess that's what I had done, because I if there was any other signs, I missed him. He was always really cool with everyone he talked about, but that just shows that he's just a really good actor, and that's unfortunate. And we were all got, and his true colors finally showed, because like you did more than I did. I didn't even know who he was following on IG and stuff like that. So seeing all that and knowing that, those are signs that I had missed. So yeah, I was genuinely surprised when I found this out. And like you said, I'm glad I know now, and I'm gonna keep on keeping on, because that's fine. I didn't care. I personally didn't care about him that much to be upset that I found out what I found out. But it kind of sucks, because he was really good at what he did, and he was entertaining.
Yeah, I just remember that Super Bowl team, even though they didn't win, that was my I loved that team, that defense. I always say that was one of the greater defenses ever, So I really liked, the whole team, even Devin Hester, return kicker or returner at the time, and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was like a big, to me in that moment. And honestly, the Trump stuff and the whatever, I didn't know. I looked at that stuff after I saw the message, because I don't think to go look at who people are following or whatever.
Right.
Some nothing. So then I went back to search, and I looked through who he's following. I was just like, what in the world? Like it's just like Trump, the whole family.
All of the Trump, the dogs.
Jackie, I want to go to you really quickly. I know we're a little over time. Thank you guys for being patient and listening to this. But my question to you is, talk over mouth, Chris, and talk for me. My question to you, Jackie, is going to be: do you agree with my point of that it is better that Trump became president so we can know about the racist people and then be able to fight the battle accordingly? Or were you more comfortable with when they didn't feel comfortable saying that they were racist?
No, I said as soon as he won, I said that he wasn't the president that we should have had, but he's definitely the president that we deserved, because as a country we have overlooked racism for so long. And I'm petty too, so there's a side of me that was loving, like, I told y'all they was around here thinking all this stuff. So the fact that they felt a little bit more brazen, so I could be like, yep, I told you. But this one hurt my feelings because my dad actually met Brian Urlacher. I don't remember the circumstances on how they met, but I know that he introduced him to like a whole bunch of my dad was an insurance agent at the time. Brian was like, hey, I know this guy, that guy. So my dad ended up insuring like half the Broncos specifically because of Brian Urlacher. So when I saw this, I was like, this got to be a typo. This got to be a typo. This ain't, he was hacked. Yeah. There's no way. You know what I mean? So This one hurt. But, my dad used to tell me all the time because, my dad was the first in a lot of things as far as Black people. And he was like, yeah, I've gotten into certain rooms because of white people. And then the second you get there, you're like, thanks, man. And then they're calling you all kinds of N-words and whatever. He's like, you never can say just by looking at someone on the outside because that's their representative. So you never know what somebody believes in their core until it comes down to that moment where they can eat. It's like they have to prove themselves. And in that moment, they'll prove who they really are. So he could have literally said nothing and we wouldn't have thought this about him. So listen to the fumble and do what we say and say less. You could have been a racist and we wouldn't have known.
Honestly, I want to, before we end Britt's take today, and I don't want to say their names. I know this is against sources, but I have actual text messages, guys. I just don't want to put them out there like that because I didn't tell them I was going to be putting their information that they told me on the show. But one of them said that Brian Urlacher doesn't have a problem with Black people. He can be around Black people and be fine, but in that same moment, he is racist. And so and he didn't realize he was obviously racist until this moment, this situation, but he's like, now I can see that he's racist, but he, in front of you, he will respect you. I'm sure your dad didn't have anything negative to say about him. Most people don't. And he's one of those racist people they can smile, wave, like, hello, he has a whole kid that's Black, and I feel so bad for his child that now knows that his dad feels this way. And guess what, Brian Urlacher? To you, that might just be your son, but to America and to cops, that is a Black man. So you better be careful and better hope that nothing ever happens to your son. I hope nothing happens to your son, but and I hope your son doesn't have to go through any of these experiences because he's not going to have you to talk to about these moments clearly, which is very unfortunate. But that made it. My friend was just like, I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but I was like, no, that actually makes total sense. That he could not show or have a problem with Black people, but he's still a racist, and that made total sense to me when I heard that, and I was like, it's sad, it's crazy, but Britt's take for today.
Thank you, Britt. That is shocking, and it is very bold for somebody to post something like that, to make those kinds of opinions public. I mean, to me, it's outrageous, but I totally see what you guys are saying about wanting to know who the people are who think that way and who feel validated in feeling that way and speaking about that. I can't comprehend it, you guys, but thank you for filling us all in on that, Britt. We have Weekend Zone coming out tomorrow, you guys, so make sure you tune into that. Yeah. And then we'll be back live at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Monday, so tune in, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Wash your hands, wear a mask, and have fun. Bye, guys.
Stay safe. Love each other.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That wasn't for you, Brian Urlacher.